On our arrival at Glogau that evening, the general in command was not a little surprised to discover that the master of horse was none other than the emperor himself. His Majesty went closely into the state of the place and the condition of the country, issued various orders, and barely took time to sup. So anxious was he to be on the way once more. We set off in the carriage offered by the general and accepted by the emperor, who was very tired from being unable to lie at full length in the sledge. Certainly, as I was, that the snow would prevent us going far on wheels, I took the precaution of having our faithful sledge follow us. And it was as well that I did so, for being unable to proceed in the carriage at more than a walking pace, we had not left Glogau far behind when we transferred into our less comfortable conveyance. Half frozen in this modest vehicle, which we should have done well not to leave, the emperor was unable to sleep and began to talk of the army, of which, owing to the rapidity of our movements, we could have no news. He longed to get into Saxony. He did not like having to cross Prussian territory, and this led to the following conversation. If we are stopped, Caulaincourt, what will they do to us? Do you think I shall be recognized, that it will be known that I'm here? You are popular enough in Germany, Caulaincourt. You speak the language. You protected the postmasters and took all my gendarmes to furnish them with escorts. They would never allow you to be arrested or ill-treated. I do not suppose they will have very grateful memories of a protection that did not hinder their being pillaged. Bah! They may have suffered for 24 hours, but you had their horses given back to them. Berthier never stopped talking of your claims on their behalf. Have you ever been in Silesia? Only with your Majesty. Then you are not known here? No, sire. I did not reach Glogau until after the gates had been closed for the night. Unless the general or the courier have been chattering in front of the postilion, it is impossible that anyone should know that I am in Prussia. That is true, and no one would imagine that it was the emperor traveling in this sorry vehicle. As to the master of horse, he is not of sufficient importance for the Prussians to compromise themselves by arresting him. Your Majesty's journey has been so speedy that no one on the road so much as knows about it. Some sort of plan would have to be arranged before any attempt could be made on us. Even a spiteful and determined man must get 3 or 4 kindred spirits to help him. If the Prussians were to stop us, what would they do to us? If it was the result of a definite plan, not knowing what to do with us, they would kill us. So we must defend ourselves to the utmost extremity. We may be lucky. There are 4 of us. But if they take you alive, what will they do to you, my good Duke of Vicenza? Asked the emperor jokingly. If they take me, it will be because of my secretary, in which event I shall be in a bad way. If we are stopped, rejoined the emperor briskly, we shall be made prisoners of war, like Francis I. Prussia will get back the millions she has paid, and will ask for millions more. If they dared strike such a boat, sire, we should not get off so cheaply as that. I think you're right. They fear me too much. They would want to keep me. That is highly probable. For fear I should escape, or that some terrible reprisals would be undertaken, the Prussians would hand me over to the English. Possibly. Can you picture to yourself, Caulaincourt, the figure you would cut in an iron cage in the main square of London? If it meant sharing your fate, sire, I should not complain. It is not a question of complaining, but of something that may happen at any moment, and of the figure you would cut in that cage, shut up like a wretched Negro left to be eaten by flies after being smeared with honey, rejoined the emperor with a laugh. And there he was for a quarter of an hour laughing at this foolish notion and the idea of that man in the cage. Never had I seen the emperor laugh so heartily, and his gaiety was so infectious that it was some time before we could speak a word without finding some fresh source of amusement. It was with considerable relief that the emperor reflected that nothing could be known of his departure, and that the Prussians, even if they did learn about it, would not dare to take any action against him while their troops were in the midst of ours, and we were as strong as they imagined us to be. But a secret assassination, an ambuscade would be easy, said His Majesty, thus betraying his lively desire to be across this strip of Prussian territory, which gave him food for such serious as well as amusing reflections. This thought so preoccupied him that he asked if our pistols were in good order, at the same time making sure his own was ready to hand. I had inspected them at Posen, so we firmly made up our minds to give a warm reception to the first person who interfered with us. Any inquisitive fellow who had thrust his head in at our door that night would have fared ill. The change of relays interrupted our conversation, as the emperor had not wished the courier from Glogau to be more than an hour ahead of us. And as he had traveled slower than we had, he was only a short distance in front, and the relay horses were not ready. The emperor could think of nothing but this delay. Accustomed to having everyone at his beck and call, he could not understand that it should take more than the half hour, which was all the advance notice the courier could give to have his horses ready. We were at a Prussian posting house, and what I attributed to nothing but the habitual slowness of Prussian postmasters seemed to him intentional delay. I had satisfied myself as to the real causes of this delay, but had not succeeded in arousing the postmaster from his imperturbable nonchalance. Nor had I been able to urge on the postilions who, according to their wont, harnessed their horses as slowly as possible so as to leave them time to feed. I spent my time going to and fro between the stables and the sledge where the emperor sat shivering with cold. To while away the time, he asked for some tea, which can be had at any posting house in Germany. 2 cups warmed him up a little, but they did not seem to allay his impatience, which increased every instant. He asked if our escort had followed us. Of the 6 gendarmes we had taken from Glogau, only the 2 were left who sat at the back of the sledge, and they were half dead with cold. At last, after waiting for an hour, we took the road again. We passed one of the most painful nights on the whole journey. The change of vehicle had frozen us. For my own part, it was 36 hours before I was warm again. I thought, said the emperor laughingly, as soon as we were on the move again, that the curtain was rising on the first act of the cage play. How is it possible to take 2 hours to harness 4 horses and even 6 which were waiting in the stables? But ill fortune dogged our steps. Our sledge broke down, and this made our progress slow. However, we reached Bunzlau, where we had to stop to have it mended. We took advantage of this delay to have our breakfast. The emperor chatted with the innkeeper, a worthy German. I acted as interpreter. His Majesty asked him to the state of the country, taxation, the administration, and what they thought of the war. Taking us for simple travelers, the innkeeper replied to all his questions with the utmost candor. The less his replies were made to please the emperor, the more the latter plied him with questions, often observing to me with a smile, "He is right. He has more common sense than many a man at the head of affairs. He isn't merely a courtier." The kindliness and sincerity of this innkeeper delighted the emperor. His place was taken by a seller of glass beads who forced her way into the emperor's room. This confiding nature of this woman, who did not know in the least who we were, yet wanted to let him have the whole of her stock on trust without receiving any money or even giving any indication of why she placed this confidence in us, amused him very much. He bought some necklaces, rings, etc., and said to me, "I will take them to Marie-Louise as a souvenir of my journey. It's only fair, Caulaincourt, that we should divide them between us. You must give some to the lady of your heart. Never had man such a long tete-a-tete with his sovereign as you have had. This journey will be a historic memory for your family. The emperor will never forget all the care you have devoted to him."